There is a creature you already know. You've seen it hunt through corridors. You've watched it test fences for weak spots. You've heard the sound it makes, that hiss, that bark, that shriek designed to burrow under your skin. Except none of that is real. The animal you've been shown doesn't exist. It never did. And what that means, what was actually out there under that ancient sky, is somehow stranger and more unsettling than anything Hollywood ever put on screen. This is the true story of the Velociraptor. The year is 1923. A man named Roy Chapman Andrews, an explorer so swashbuckling he is widely believed to have been a partial inspiration for Indiana Jones, leads a fleet of Dodge motorcars and camel caravans into the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. He is not looking for dinosaurs, he is looking for human ancestors. He finds neither. What he finds instead is stranger. On August 11th, expedition member Peter Kaizen unearthed something from the Red Cliffs of a place that would later be called the Flaming Cliffs. A crushed skull. Odd, narrow, upturned at the snout. And beside it, a single curved claw, unlike anything previously catalogued. The following year, the president of the American Museum of Natural History, Henry Fairfield Osborn, puts a name to the animal, Velociraptor mongoliensis. In Latin, it means swift thief. At the time, no one could have guessed how apt that name would become. Not for what the animal stole from the desert, but for what it would eventually steal from the public imagination. Let's start with a confession. My own confession is that I would be very happy if you were to like this video and subscribe. The other is about a movie. The Velociraptor in Jurassic Park, the sleek, scaled, human-sized hunter that opens kitchen doors and coordinates ambushes, is not Velociraptor. It is a different dinosaur entirely, Deinonychus antiropus, a larger North American relative. Author Michael Crichton admitted he chose the name Velociraptor simply because it sounded more dramatic. The actual name of the animal he was describing, he told paleontologist John Ostrom, was far less cinematic. So the most famous dinosaur of the modern era is hiding behind a borrowed name. But here's what makes the truth so much more interesting than the fiction. When you strip away the Hollywood invention, when you rebuild this animal from the fossil record up, what you find is something that would unsettle you in a completely different way. Velociraptor was roughly the size of a turkey. Not a large, threatening turkey, well, somewhat large, but nothing extreme. Around 2 meters from snout to tail, barely half a meter at the hip, weighing somewhere between 14 and 20 kilograms. You could pick one up in theory. You probably shouldn't. It was a mid-sized dromaeosaurid, a family of feathered theropods. Think about that image. Not a reptile, not a monster from the deep. A feathered bird-like predator. Fast, precise, wired for the hunt. In 2007, a forearm bone unearthed from Mongolia changed everything. Scientists examining it found clear indications of quill knobs, places where the quills of secondary feathers were anchored to the bone with ligaments. These are structures found in modern birds, in strong flyers. Velociraptor almost certainly could not fly, but it had the gear. Its feathers were used to keep its body warm and as display structures to intimidate rivals or attract mates. There is something in that image that should give you pause. A feathered predator, the size of a large dog, crouched low in an ancient desert landscape, watching. Velociraptor's world was not the lush, green Jurassic of popular imagination. Its world was sand. The Jadokta Formation, where virtually all known Velociraptor fossils have been found, was deposited in arid settings, with fields of sand dunes and only intermittent streams under a semi-arid climate. Mongolia, roughly 75 to 71 million years ago. a landscape more alien than verdant. Sculpted by wind, baked by sun, broken only by sparse vegetation and the animals that fought to survive in it. The most common creature in this environment was Protoceratops, a sheep-sized herbivore, beaked and frilled, wandering the dunes in numbers. It was prey, probably, most likely. But the relationship between these two animals is more complicated and more intimate than a simple predator-prey dynamic would suggest. In fact, the most extraordinary fossil ever found captures the exact moment that relationship became permanent. It is 1971. A Polish-Mongolian expedition is working through the Gobi. A team of paleontologists uncovers something in the white sandstone cliffs of the Tugrikan Shire locality. Two skeletons locked together. The Velociraptor has embedded its deadly foot claw into the neck of the crouching Protoceratops, near the region that housed the blood supply for the head. In turn, the Protoceratops appears to have bitten and broken the right arm of the Velociraptor. They named the specimen the fighting dinosaurs. Mongolia considers it a national treasure. It is now thought that the animals were buried in sand, either from a collapsing dune or in a sandstorm. Burial must have been extremely rapid, judging from the lifelike poses in which the animals were preserved. They died mid-struggle, frozen in the exact moment of combat, preserved for 75 million years, until a Polish team walked into the right canyon on the right morning, and the desert gave up what it had kept. We can read this fossil like a story. The Velociraptor had targeted the Protoceratops, an animal considerably larger and heavier than itself. Ambitious, desperate perhaps, or something more calculated. Comparisons between the scleral rings of Velociraptor and modern birds and reptiles indicate that Velociraptor may have been nocturnal, its wide eyes built for low-light hunting. The fatal encounter between the two species preserved in the fighting dinosaurs specimen probably happened at twilight or in low-light conditions. Picture it. Dusk falling over the dunes, something moving through the shadows. The claw is the part everyone knows. That sickle-shaped weapon raised off the ground, kept sharp, kept ready. But the movies got it wrong, again. The slashing hypothesis was tested during a 2005 BBC documentary. The producers created an artificial velociraptor leg with a sickle claw and used a pork belly to simulate prey. Though the claw did penetrate, it was unable to tear it open, indicating the claw was not used to disembowel prey. While this isn't verified by paleontologists, it's worth noting. Instead, the claw was a grappling hook. Velociraptor leapt onto its target and pinned it with its body weight. The large sickle-shaped claw dug into its victim, gripping tightly to prevent escape. Then it tore into the prey with its jaws. It hunted the way a hawk hunts a rabbit. Controlled, patient, methodical. Reconstruction of Velociraptor's inner ear shows that it had a similar hearing ability to ravens. It could track movement in the dark by sound alone. Scientists theorize that these predators were nocturnal, as their scleral ring, a bony disc that reinforces the eye, was wide and would have let in enough light to see at night. This was not a mindless predator. Velociraptor was not smart like a chimp or even a parrot or crow, but it was smart like an average bird, a hawk or something like that. Enough intelligence to hunt, to wait, to choose its moment. And then, somewhere around 70 million years ago, Velociraptor vanishes from the fossil record, disappearing several million years before the great extinction event that ended the age of dinosaurs entirely. We do not know exactly why. The environment was shifting. The desert world of the Jadocta was changing. Perhaps its prey disappeared. Perhaps the climate turned against it. Or perhaps the answer is stranger than we think. because here is the part that should stop you cold. Velociraptor did not simply die. There is very little difference between primitive birds like Archaeopteryx and advanced theropods like Velociraptor. Both had long, bony tails. Both had teeth. Both had the same three-fingered hands, the same wishbones, the same skeletal blueprint. The line between Velociraptor and the creatures that became birds is so thin that some paleontologists argue it barely exists. As Mark Norell of the American Museum of Natural History put it, if animals like Velociraptor were alive today, our first impression would be that they were just very unusual-looking birds. And so every morning, when something with hollow bones and wishbone and sharp eyes tilts its head toward you from a branch, there is something of that ancient hunter in it. Not the Hollywood monster, not the manufactured terror, the real thing, patient, feathered, watching. The swift thief never entirely left. It just learned to sing.